is already very, very powerful as it is. Faith is one of my favorite builds because I always love to be paladins alpha. Now, this is not going to be a Death Knight per se. Everything, the whole idea comes from the Red Lightning, and because the weapon that we're using, it is a weapon from the DLC from a very, very tough enemy. The animation, that one that you're seeing on screen, it's just delightful. It just feels amazing. And the weapon, it comes from the Death Knight. So let me show you real fast where are you going to get it. This is where you start at the DLC. You come all the way north from here, and at some point, sometime after you kill the second boss fight, DLC boss fight, as a matter of fact, you don't actually have to do. All you have to do is just follow this path right here until you get to the Fog Rift Catacombs. You are going to need to defeat this boss fight for you to get this amazing weapon. This is a quality weapon that has good scaling in between strength and faith. However, we are going to max out everything at faith because we want to do two things. We want to buff the electric damage of the weapon because it has electric damage, but we also like to be using incantations. So if you want to be using incantations from the DLC alongside with this weapon, I'll show you just how would you do such a thing. But this weapon is just a perfect complement. It's a dual axe and it feels amazing to play the Ash of War. It actually also has iframes, so if you time it properly as the enemy is attacking you, you can counterattack with this thing, but also you can prepare the attack with previous incantations like you are going to see me doing throughout the rendition of the entirety of the playthrough. So it's just a perfect match. The stats that we will use for this build, this is 150 builds, and it's just the standard high damaging faith build that you would regularly have. We have 50 vigor, we have 30 mind to be able to spam as much spells as we can in the Ash of War as we can, and then we have a little bit of endurance. Remember that strength, actually the weapon actually does scales with strength, so if you later on want to add physical damage scaling, because that's where what strength is going to give you. Physical damage scaling, that's nice. Furthermore, if you want to level up your character, this is a nice place to do so. And then finally, 80 faith. This is going to allow us to deal the maximum amount possible damage with our incantations, but it's also going to increase the electric portion damage of our weapon, and we are going to be using quite a lot of stuff to buff that electric portion damage of our weapon. Now, as for the armor, I'm really using just anything that I was able to find right here. This is the Black Knight armor of the DLC Black Knight that you find roaming out there in the fields. But you don't necessarily need to be using this armor for, you can swap in between pieces and stuff in between your build. Remember that you do have quite a lot of endurance, so you can swap stuff. Just remember that you need to have that 51 points threshold to be able to bypass the enemy's attacks. And also the Death Knight twin axes, because we are a Death Knight. As for the seal for incantations, we are using the Gravelstone seal because that boosts the dragon incantations, and that Red Lightning and the whole aesthetic of a Death Knight that we're going for, it's just a perfect fit. But if by some reason you want to do use different incantations like Golden Seal or maybe Bestial incantations, different kind of incantations for the Golden Order or anything other, it's just fine. I think that this fits just perfectly on the aesthetic that we're going for. There's a whole bunch of talismans that you can play and toy around with, but my advice is that since the Ash of War actually attacks in a quick, fast succession, I would advise for you to use things like Millicent Prosthesis, or maybe things like the Wing Sword insignia, or the Rotten Sword insignia, or the just anything that boosts your attack power is nice. As always, Shout of Alexander, that is going to give you 15% extra attack power on your Ash of War. And since our attack is mostly based on electric damage as well, you can by all means use the Lightning Scorpion Charm, but you're also half a Spellblade or a caster, a electric warrior, so by all means So by all means, talismans that would raise the potency of your incantations are always welcome as well. The spells that I'm using for this build, you might actually be weirded out by this one. Flame grant me strength. Remember that this raises the fire affinity of our weapon, so we're missing out on 20% right there. The thing is though, that this also gives you 20% extra physical damage, and what do you know, these weapons actually have quite a lot of physical damage, so we're all up for that. Then Golden Vow to increase our attack and defense for ourselves and for our allies. As for the spells, any kind of dragon's incantations like the Lancia Exclave, the Frozen Lightning Spear, the Fortisax Lightning Spear, Ancient Dragon's Lightning Strike, Ancient Dragon's Lightning Spear, anything, just you can play around with this with the incantations, but the one thing that I would like to point out is that there's new incantations in DLC, so you should be looking out for them, and they would be a perfect fit for this build. They are going to be ready, good and ready, cooked for you, so that you can start planning them to use them with this build as soon as you find them. But also, the Frozen Lightning Spear, I like to use this as a combo because it has like that traveling wave that sometimes it causes staggers on enemies, so it prepares just perfectly. You are going to be seeing me using this thing quite a lot, and it's just, if you combine it with the Asho 4, it just deals filthy and tremendous amounts of damage. The mix of wondrous physics. This is actually pretty straightforward. Lightning, Shrouding, Cracked Tear. This gives you plus 20% extra electric damage, so that's nice, we want that electric damage right there, but also the Strength Nut Crystal Tear. Remember that our weapon actually scales well with strength, so you're naturally always going to be receiving extra damage from the Strength Nut Crystal Tear. This is the overall damage buff that you are going to receive with this weapon, and I can't stress enough how fun, how good, how flashy it feels to play with this weapon, with this Death Knight that has red lightning. It's just amazing. Remember that one of the highlights of the weapon is that provided that you play properly, it has iframes whenever you start the animation. Beyond those iframes, the first animation, while not doing that much damage, it's also going to cause some kind of stagger. On top of that, it's also going to deal tremendous amounts of stagger and poise potential with the second attack, which you can trigger after you use the first portion of the attack. So in reality, it just has too much stuff. Granted, I would say that the balance of this weapon is that in return it doesn't give you that much damage, but you can use to follow up, you can use like your basic attacks to follow up after you have completed the animation, because like I said, more often than not, it is going to stagger the enemies. And if you use some kind of a range spell, wind up, to deal further damage and then close the distance while you're using your iframes, you're causing all of that stagger potential, and then you follow up with your basic attacks, it just translates into so much defense and offense and damage and overall versatility all throughout the actions that you are performing with this weapon. But the most spicy thing about it all is that you look so precisely spicy, you look so flashy, you look so powerful while performing, you look like a god while performing all of this stuff. This is definitely a god tier build that allows you to deal so much damage while having so many tools, and it has so much buff capabilities. If you like the content, a like on the video is super appreciated. Not only today you're a gorgeous and beautiful person, you're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Join the Discord, like the video, subscribe to the channel, have a beautiful day, and goodbye.